They say it took place right here in this very pumpkin patch. A group of students came to see the sights, hear the sounds, and of course, sing that carnival in the beginning. They joked around with one another very consistently. It was a really nice night, or so it was told, until, wham! Something jumped out and hunted each and every single one of them down and swallowed them whole, one by one, until there was only one of them remaining. Brian rolled his eyes as Josh told the story. Ugh, come on. That's like the 10th time you've told me that story this month. And 11th isn't gonna make it any better while we're walking. What? Are you joking? That story's a classic. I haven't even gotten to the best part yet, Josh exclaimed, waving his hands around dramatically. Maria gazed at Josh with a brow raised. What? Telling a ruined story about Teresa is considered a classic? So that's what the kids are into these days. Adios mío. Lame, she said with a chuckle. Josh tilted his head to the side, a thick strand of his crimson hair falling over his face as he replied, Really? That story is so entertaining to pass around? Not to mention that the theories surrounding it are so interesting. He clapped his hands together. I mean, think about this for instance. I am 100% convinced that whatever was lurking about this maze had something to do with bells, a bright light, and giggling. There's no doubt about it. Brian gave him a puzzled look. What gives you that idea? He asked. Josh shrugged. Well, her response. Teresa really doesn't seem to like bells. Lights kind of throw her off from what I could tell. And she has a panic attack when someone laughs. Well, depending on the volume, that is. Maria smirked. Never took you for the perspicacious type. Josh immediately gave her an incredulous look. What? You calling me dumb? You kinda are, Brian muttered. I heard that, dungweed. Maria chuckled a little. Huh. No, it's not that. I just didn't expect you to be so perceptive is all. Noticing the little things. Ya sabes? You're typically a very vociferous individual. Josh shook his head. Whatever. I don't even know what any of that means. Let's just get moving here, folks. The night's a-wastin'. He picked up his pace as he spoke. I'll add impetuous to the list, Maria said. Enough of the big words and come on already, Josh called out as he rushed forward. Well, excuse me for paying attention in English class, Maria said. Yeah, excuse you for being such a smartass, Josh replied immediately. Fight all you guys want. Can we move along in the process, if you don't mind? Brian muttered with a yawn. Maria looked at Josh, who shrugged. Then the duo began moving down the dirt path. Brian began to follow, but halted when he noticed something at the corner of his eye. His head snapped to the left, and his expression switched to one of confusion as he noticed a black shape peeking from around the corner, just behind a wall of jack-o'-lanterns. It held an appendage up to what Brian guessed to be the head, and it looked as if it was calling out to him. Then, after a moment, it tilted its head quizzically to the side, a jingling sound accompanying the motion. Then, after a few more seconds of this action, it slipped out of sight. Brian furrowed his brow in confusion. Josh didn't mention anything about this place having some haunted attraction type of aspect to it. He let out a low sigh. On top of having to deal with running around a maze full of pumpkins, Josh's grand idea of an adventure, he'd have to deal with whatever actors were roaming about, attempting to frighten them along the way. At least the place will be more interesting, he thought aloud. "Hey, you coming?" Josh called out. "You're the one who rushed us, you know. And don't be lagging behind now." Yeah, I'm coming," Brian called out. He glanced back at where he saw the shape again, and still it was gone. He wondered what else might be in store as they wondered about this maze. He looked at Josh. "Hey, you didn't warn us that this place was some type of haunted house attraction. You know that, right?" Josh looked back at him. "Wait, really? I don't remember it being like that. But that's so cool if it is." He put his fingers up to his chin in a thinking gesture. "Well, that does make sense now that I think about it. If I recall correctly, I think last year the patch had this carnival-type theme." Brian gave Josh a look. "You gotta be kidding me." "Nope," Josh replied immediately. Maria crossed her arms, gazing around through narrowed eyes as she spoke. "So, this place not only is a maze this year, but a haunted house? Perfect," she muttered sarcastically. "Come on! That's what makes it great! More of an adventure!" Josh proclaimed. "Whatever. It makes it more of a pain in the ass, if you ask me. But let's just get this going so we can get this over with," Brian replied calmly. Maria nodded. "Yeah, I hear you there. I mean, I'm not in a rush, but I did hear that in the center of the maze, it's supposed to be a little more interesting. Like the decorations are more dramatic. Really makes me curious." Josh jumped excitedly on the balls of his feet. "Oh yeah, now we're talking. Not only is this place like a scary maze this year, but we get more in the center? Oh, I gotta see this," he exclaimed, rushing off. "Wait, hold on a sec," Maria called out, following after him. Brian watched as the duo ran off. He turned, glancing around at the rows of pumpkins stacked at the edge of the path. Nothing seemed out of place, not this time. But even so, he was sure there'd be something else lurking about the maze. It was very evident that this place had quite the budget. There was bound to be something that would frighten him even more. He turned and began ambling through the maze once again, in the direction that his friends had run off to. Quite a bit of time passed, with him meandering through the maze. More time than he had expected it to be. He found the place to be a little more repetitive as time went on. Row after row of jack-o'-lanterns. Some of them were pretty goofy. Others, however, more complex than he had expected. Those complex ones were the pumpkins that made this little walk of his more interesting. Some of them looked zombie-like in appearance. Brian froze, thoughts suddenly cut off as the silence around him was broken. He listened intently as the noise of jingling reached his ears. "Are those bells?" he muttered to himself. "What the hell?" He rubbed his fingers against his temples. This place really was weird to him. Then his head quickly snapped up as something new sounded. It was giggling. Manic giggling. It sounded as if it was at a distance, yet at the same time, so close. He didn't understand how that was even possible. He continued walking, the laughing never ceasing as he moved. He shut his eyes tight, wishing it would go away, but it persisted, How long he walked, he had no idea. But what he did know was that laughing still followed. He had shut his eyes tight by then, wishing it would go away, but it never did. Gawk! Brian exclaimed as his head made contact with something. Not cool, man. Brian looked up to see Josh clutching his bottom lip. You really need to watch where you're going, you know that? Speak for yourself. You're the one who's supposed to be watching, right? Brian replied. Josh gave a dismissive wave of his hand. Right, whatever. Look, you gotta come see this. Maria and I found the center of the patch, I think. And it's really cool over there. I mean, there's so much to see. Without letting Brian reply, Josh spun on his heel and rushed out, immediately out of sight. Brian sprinted after him. Hey, would you wait up for once? He called out. Brian soon caught up with Josh, standing beside him, breathing heavily. He glared up at the teen. That was not cool. Josh simply smirked, staring at what lay ahead of them. But it's so cool. We had to get here as quickly as possible. Brian stared daggers at Josh before turning his gaze ahead. What lay before them was a tall, thick oak tree. Surrounding it were numerous piles of jack-o'-lanterns. Each carving consisted of something between goofy and frightening. Brian looked the tree up and down, noticing many fake skeletons hanging atop the branches. I guess they did try to do something here. He looked up at the highest branch. Maybe a little too much, he muttered to himself, looking at the more ludicrous of decorations at the top. But that's what makes it so special, Josh said, gazing up at the tree. All these decorations in this one spot makes this area so much more dramatic compared to the rest. You gotta admit that. Brian's eyes darted around the clearing before returning to Josh. Is that the same excuse you're going to use for the large amounts of red paint that are splattered along the grass? He said. Josh fixed his gaze to a nearby pile of pumpkins that were also splattered with the crimson substance. Then he looked over to Brian. Well, I'd say that's honestly one of the best parts. Really adds to that Halloween horror. He giggled a little as he continued. Plus it connects with the greatest decoration in the clearing. Brian gave him a look of bewilderment as he responded, Is that so? Josh laughed a little. Yes, it is so. It's connected to the greatest decoration. I'm telling you. Maria's watching it right now. It's on the other side of the tree. You should have seen her reaction. It was so funny. Brian gave him a blank stare. If you say so. Fucking weirdo. Sure, I'll go check it out on the other side. Josh clapped his hands together. Well, you better enjoy it. Well, while you can. It's gonna be very entertaining to see your face when it's all over, he said. Yeah, Brian said, giving a dismissive wave of his hand as he walked away. He almost immediately came to an abrupt halt as he made it to the other side. What lay before him was not at all what he expected. What the fuck? He muttered aloud as he stared at the still bodies of Maria and Josh. They were just barely recognizable, bodies torn to shreds, eyes missing from their sockets. One of them looked like they were missing their jaw. Brian jolted in his spot as loud cackling split through the cold night air. Tricked you. The high-pitched laughter continued from behind him. Slowly, he turned, ready to face the source. He saw nothing. Where Josh once stood was now empty. The laughing started once again, and once again it was behind him. Tricked you again, tricked you again. He twirled around, quicker this time, and his eyes widened at the sight that lay before him. It was a clown, dancing about sporadically, its arms flailing around as if they were noodles. Between the constant fits of laughter, Brian soon recognized that same sound from before, the jingling of bells. And soon, he realized the source. Tiny, pumpkin-shaped objects tied to the ends of the clown's orange hair. The Jester's dancing came to an abrupt end as it stared wide-eyed at Brian, before suddenly wiping a bit of red from its orange and white outfit. Then, it brought its finger to its mouth. Tastes like strawberry, it said. What's wrong? You don't like the decorations? The Jester pouted a little, making a crying motion with its hands. It suddenly burst into another fit of cackling as Brian took a step back. He watched, eyes wide with terror, as the clown began dancing around once more, the cackling never ceasing as it jumped from place to place. The clown suddenly paused again, fixing its gaze on him. You look a little tired. I could wake you up. Or maybe I could put you to sleep. It spoke between laughter. Brian opened his mouth to reply, but the clown spoke first. I choose sleep. It's more fun that way. One moment, he stared at the clown, fear and confusion evident in his expression. Then the next, he had been blinded by a flash of orange light before it all went dark. Brian awoke with a start, clutching his hand to his chest. He stared around at his surroundings. The clearing was empty. He spun his head around, looking at the tree. There's nothing there. Blank. He rose from where he sat against the trunk, staring around at the pumpkins that lined the clearing. And then he walked away. Bro, I can't believe it. First that Teresa girl, now this guy? There's no way that's a coincidence, a teen boy said. Nah, come on, man. That was like a year ago. She moved anyway. You really think this kid's gonna be the same? Hell yeah, I do. Are you joking? He's got the same symptoms, and he went to the same location. I mean, come on, just look at the guy. I don't believe it. There's no way a random story like that could be true. Sure, the place might be a bit frightening, but to such a traumatic level, come on, it's fake. Well, would you like to go on ahead and confirm it? We can go there. We've still got a week left of October. Sure, as long as you're paying for it. I ain't coughing up anything. Not for something that doesn't exist. Fine. I can do that. But you'll owe me another favor later. Brian sat at his desk, eyes wide and frantic as they darted around wildly. He clutched his head tight, that memory still plaguing his mind. A small smile crept across his face as he listened to the conversation nearby. Tricked you.